So this is our final part of the three-part series of yellow metals in architecture. And this one we'll be talking about copper. I think ultimately this is probably my favourite. I know I said that a bit about bronze, but I think copper is probably my favourite. It's certainly the oldest of the architectural metals. People have been using this stuff for the last 10,000 years because it's mined all over the world. So it's been found in monasteries, in Inca buildings, all sorts of things, thousands and thousands of years old. The lovely thing about copper is it is the most sustainable product on the market. It is 100% recyclable, and 80% of all copper being used today has already been used in one way or another. So we're really only mining 20% of the copper being used currently. It is like all the other yellow metals. It has that beautiful natural luster that I think architects and designers, we all love it. It polishes nicely, it patinas nicely, it's really malleable, so you can use it for things like standing seams, flat seams, shingles. You can curve it to sort of fairly difficult shapes because it's so soft. It's just got so many uses. So as I said, it is such a versatile product and material. Looking at what it does as it ages, I think is one of the most beautiful things about copper. Obviously, it starts as a fairly bright sort of orangey gold color like this woven mesh. And as time goes by, there's a little time scale here to show you. So when you install a copper panel externally, it'll start at that sort of color, this nice bright orangey color. It'll last 6 months to a year in that color. It'll then go to this sort of browny mottled color. That's 1 to 5 years, and then 5 to 20 years, it'll have spats of dark black in it, and begin maybe to get the odd spat of green in it. The green, the verdigris that is so often wanted with copper nowadays can take up to 50, 60, even 100 years to go green. It is simply because the lack of pollutants in the air, so things like sulfur and what have you, help it turn to the verdigris very quickly. If it's in a marine environment, the salt and what have you in the air will help it turn green quicker. But it's a strange thing. We've had projects go in 15, 20 years ago, and they're still somewhere between these two colours. They're nowhere near verdigrising off at the moment. But there is hope for things like that. There are ways of accelerating the process to make it verdigris. There's plenty of ways of doing that. Personally, I think it can prove problematic because you end up with a very even and sometimes a bit overly green finish. Another way of doing it, which we've done on a number of projects recently, is for a kind of powder coat. So this here is an aged copper powder coat, and essentially what is happening here is we've got a natural coppery colour underneath, and then we overlay it with the green, so it gives you that much more natural feel. So each panel, when we do it like this, each panel will be slightly different, as it should be, because there's a degree of hand finishing gone on here, but you get this really nice natural looking patina on it. We can do this on most of our products. Certainly on the expanded metals it looks fabulous. On the Well-Tec profiled metals it looks great. So on something like this that works as well. This one here is actually, this is sort of a natural copper that's been just beginning to go off now, but this is 4 years old. With regards to powder coating as a general finish on copper, unlike brasses and bronzes, powder coating doesn't work very well. These two are your natural RAL colours that they class as copper. Now, they're all right, but they're not really copper. That doesn't give you that nice, bright, coppery luster that we really want. So ultimately, we could also look at potentially anodizing it. However, working with the anodizers, they have come up with a range of coppers, but I'm not sure I would call these coppers. They're a lovely pink, but they are not a copper. So ultimately, really, what we've got, if you want copper, we have the best thing to do is use real copper. If you're trying to value engineer copper, there is one way we can do it, and that is using a plating finish. Similar to brass plating, it's generally done onto mild steel. So the issue with plating is, although you get this beautiful natural copper finish, you can only really use it internally. If you put this externally and it gets damaged, the material underneath, because it's steel, will rust and it'll decay. So the other products that we use with copper are the woven meshes. So things like these are a really fine woven mesh that we've laminated into glass, all natural copper. The nice thing with laminating copper into glass is it stays copper. This was laminated God knows how long ago and it's still really nice bright colour. As with the brasses and bronzes, we can print it onto our synthetic meshes. Again, really nice when laminating in glass. But with these ones, it also means you can print other things on it, so company logos and things like that. The other finish we can do with copper is, especially with our woven meshes, things like this and this mesh. This is an aged copper. So essentially what we have here, again, it's a copper plate with a light black lacquer put on top, which is gently taken away to reveal the highlights of the copper underneath. This is so popular at the moment as a finish. I think this and bronze and aged brass are probably three of the most popular finishes we've got going with the woven meshes. And then finally, I think when it comes to woven meshes and copper, my favourite is copper with stainless steel. Absolutely my favourite, actually. I love this one. So we have a copper weft, stainless warp, and like with the brass and the stainless, it gives that really modern finish, but with a heritage kind of look to it. Applications wise, certainly with the woven meshes such as these, when you've got either the natural or the antique copper, the obvious ones are balustrades, but we've done some ceilings recently, which look absolutely stunning. But as I said, the aged copper, that needs to be internally. Natural copper, externally, is fine. We then, because of its malleability, copper and cladding works very well. This is actually not real copper. This is an aluminium with a copper finish on it. But it works really well for cladding, and I think it's been used for cladding for goodness knows how long. And then the expanded meshes, certainly great for cladding, also balustrading internally and externally. This will work perfectly. And then we also have our coil, so we can do the drapery in it. This is, I mean, it's just such a pretty metal. So that's copper. I mean, ultimately for me, if you're going to do copper, if you can use the real thing, that is the way to go with it. It's such a beautiful product, and I think it'll be in architecture. We've been with us for 10,000 years. I can't see it changing anytime soon.